Could I ask you just to please stand for the gospel, if you would? A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. To you, O Lord. Thank you. On the way to Jerusalem, Jesus was going through the region between Samaria and Galilee. Excuse me. As he entered a village, 10 lepers approached him. Keeping their distance, they called out, saying, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." When he saw them, he said to them, "Go and show yourselves to the priests." And as they went, they were made clean. Then one of them, when he saw that he was healed, turned back, praising God with a loud voice. He prostrated himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him. And he was a Samaritan. Excuse me. Then Jesus asked, "Were not 10 made clean? But the other 9, where are they? Was none of them found to return and give praise to God except this foreigner?" Then he said to him, "Get up and go on your way. Your faith has made you well." The gospel of the Lord. Please be seated. Sorry about the tickle. This is an honor to be here, to be asked to reflect on that beautiful gospel. Thank you. That's right. There is an amusing story about gratitude. I just experienced, and I have some gratitude now, but that's not the story. There's an amusing story about in Budapest, a man went to a rabbi, and he was complaining. And he said to the rabbi, "Life is unbearable. There are 9 of us living in one room. What can I do?" The rabbi answered him and said, "Take your goat into the room with you." The man was incredulous, but the rabbi insisted, "Do as I say and come back in a week." A week later, the man came back looking more distraught than before. "We cannot stand it," he tells the rabbi. "The goat is filthy." The rabbi then tells him, "Well, go home and let the goat out and come back in a week." A radiant man returns to the rabbi a week later exclaiming, "Life is beautiful. We enjoy every minute of it now, and there's no goat, only the 9 of us." A simple story, and yet a pretty powerful message about gratitude and recognizing the things that we have to be thankful for, like a glass of water. When Cicero defined gratitude this way. He's a famous Roman senator, of course. "Gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but the parent of all the others." The virtue of gratitude is the ability to express our thankful appreciation in word or deed to the person whose words or actions have benefited us in some way. We've all had those times when we have experienced the need to express our thanks, to express gratitude, and other times when we're just not aware at all. I'm speaking from my own personal experience there. As we launch into this Thanksgiving week, consider this. Research shows that feeling grateful doesn't just make us feel good, it affects our whole being. That when we, in fact, live a life of thankfulness and in gratitude for the blessings we have, there's actual physical response that helps us, lengthens our lives, lowers our blood pressure. Gratitude, thanksgiving, showing thanks. Thanksgiving does give us that opportunity. We'll probably be gathering with friends and family and those warm places that we like to be. We'll eat a lot and do things that we enjoy doing. In preparing these remarks, I came across a word that I've never heard before, but it's a real word. It's in the dictionary. So therefore, it must be a real word. And that word is enough. Enoughness. It's all one word. I say it slowly just so you enoughness. And what that is that's knowing in our hearts, knowing through our experience when enough is enough. Knowing when, and we're the only ones that can make that determination for ourselves. When is enough enough? It struck me because I struggle with that. My wife is here, who in her kindness will not tell tales out of school, but I struggle with this all the time. It's not just the need for a camera, it's need for a better camera. Not just a 7 megapixel, the cameraman right in front of me knows what I'm talking about, but it's a camera just like this, a fancy one. It grows inside me the more I know about it, the more it draws me to it. I'm not satisfied with what I have. Camera is just one small example. Clothing, there are many, many issues. And it's really part of who we are as Americans. All of our advertising is to create those needs that take us beyond enoughness into a needy state. And we can be less thankful when we are feeling needy about what I really have to have. And I'm not proud of that. It's a battle. I've started to stop reading the Sunday circulars. I pass them on. When it comes in the newspapers, Ed will say, "You want to read the magazine?" I say, no, thanks. And so just trying to break the temptations for the wants, lose that sense of gratitude. Gratitude is what Luke's gospel is all about, that gospel story that we just told about Jesus curing 10 lepers. Leprosy in those days was awful. It was awful. It's much more controlled nowadays. But it was an absolutely brutal condition. And Jesus, along the way, heard the 10 lepers calling out to him. And what the procedure was, being a good Jew, was you went to the priest in the temple, and they would check you out and determine, yes, you are well. It has happened. And so we don't hear that they just like that were changed. But Jesus sent them to the temple and said, "Go show yourselves to the priest." And they did, and as they passed from Jesus to the temple, they were cured. They were cured. And one, when he realized he was cured, was grateful, realized it, and came back to thank Jesus. Jesus says, weren't there 10 of you in all? Where are the other 9? He couldn't speak for them, but Jesus said, because you are grateful, you have been healed. You have been saved. That's even beyond healed. You have been saved. God is not sitting in heaven like an impetuous giver waiting for us to offer thanks. God does not need our thanks. God's love for us is unconditional. God's care for us is unconditional. When we thank God, when we are grateful to God, we grow from that. We need to offer thanks because what that implies is that we need God's presence in our lives. That implies to us that we are humble in the presence of God. And that tells us how aware and conscious we need to constantly be to be aware of all of the gifts that God offers to us. Every breath that we breathe in and breathe out, our light, our health, our friends, everything in our life is gift from God. And if we have that attitude of gratitude, then we are, in fact, living just the way God wants us to. So God is not begging that we come back and say thank you. We need to go back and say thank you on our own and for what it will do for us and what it does for us in that relationship with God. So, Thanksgiving, on Thursday, 2 days from now, actually. Perhaps that can be a starting time for us to strive to remind ourselves of all of God's blessings and keep them in our consciousness. One thing I overlooked. There are times, and there are perhaps some of you here, that going through crises at this life make it very hard to be thankful when a disease or a condition or something affects you or your family. It's very hard at that time to be thankful. What are we, the community, to do about that? Well, first of all, to recognize it, and then perhaps it's up to us to be the agents of God and to help the others in whatever they are, whatever it is that blocks them, whatever it is that's going on in their lives that requires an expression of God's loving support, an awareness how God has touched their lives. So it's to be aware of them as well, but also know that there are times in your life when it's very hard to say thanks. And that's when we rely on each other. So let's strive to remind ourselves of God's blessings wherever we find them and however they come to us, and give thanks for them at every moment. As we express our gratitude, John F. Kennedy said, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by those words. How about you? Does your life presently demonstrate a sense of gratitude to God? When others see you, are they aware that you live your life for someone else to whom you owe a great debt? Is there joy in your life? Does it show? How have you demonstrated your gratitude to Christ lately? Today may be a good day to begin.